back to Enoch. This is from chapter 67, verses 4 through 7. And he will imprison those angels who have shown unrighteousness in that burning valley which my grandfather Enoch had formerly shown to me in the west, among the mountains of gold and silver and iron and soft metal and tin. And I saw that the valley, in which there was a great convulsion and a convulsion of the waters. And when all this took place from that fiery molten metal, and from the convulsion thereof in that place, there was produced a smell of sulfur, and it was connected with those waters in that valley of the angels who had led astray mankind, burned beneath that land. And through its valleys proceed streams of fire, where these angels are punished who had led astray those who dwell upon the earth. This is also from Enoch chapter 62, verses 9 through 13. And all the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who rule the earth shall fall down before him on their faces, and worship and set their hope upon that Son of Man, and petition him and supplicate for mercy at his hands. Nevertheless, that Lord of spirits will so press them that they shall hastily go forth from his presence. And their faces shall be filled with shame, and the darkness grow deeper on their faces. And he will deliver them to the angels for punishment, to execute vengeance on them, because they have oppressed his children and his elect. And they shall be a spectacle for the righteous and for his elect. They shall rejoice over them, because the wrath of the Lord of spirits resteth upon them, and his sword is drunk with their blood. And the righteous and elect shall be saved on that day, and they shall never thenceforward see the face of the sinners and the unrighteous. This is again from Enoch. This is from chapter 48, verses 8 through 10. It has a little bit of a conflicting idea, it seems, but here goes. In these days, downcast in countenance shall the kings of the earth have become, and the strong who possess the land because of the works of their hands. For on the day of their anguish and affliction they shall not be able to save themselves, and I will give them over into the hands of mine elect. As a straw in the fire, so shall they burn before the face of the holy. As lead in the water shall they sink before the face of the righteous, and no trace of them shall any more be found. And on the day of their affliction there shall be rest on the earth, and before them they shall fall and not rise again. Very interesting. So it seems that we have an idea that they're going to perish, but they're going to be punished forever at the same time. These three passages from the book of Enoch seem to be most explicitly referenced in the Apocalypse of John. And I'm not going to refer to it as the book of Revelation because there's other apocalypses, which are also kind of important. So this is from the Apocalypse of John, chapter 19, verses 17 through 21, chapter 20, verses 1 through 3, and verses 7 through 14, chapter 21, verses 5 through 8. The parallels with Enoch become pretty straightforward, I think. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and with a loud voice he called to all the birds that fly in mid-heaven, Come, gather for the great supper of God, to eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of captains, the flesh of the mighty, the flesh of horses and their riders, flesh of all, both free and slave, both small and great. Then I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against the rider on the horse and against his enemy. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed in its presence the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur, and the rest were killed by the sword of the rider on the horse, the sword that came from his mouth, and all the birds were gorged with their flesh. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. It seems to me that this bottomless pit is not referring to Gehenna, but is actually referring to Tartarus, which is explicitly mentioned in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4, and is also mentioned in Jude 6. Going on, he sees the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and locked it and sealed it over them, so that he would deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be let out for a little while. When the 1,000 years were ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, in order to gather them for battle. They are as numerous as the sands of the sea. They marched up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city. And the fire came down from heaven and consumed them. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Then I saw a great white throne and the one who sat on it. The earth and the heaven fled from his presence, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Also another book was opened, the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works, as recorded in the books. And the sea gave up the dead that were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and all were judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And yet it's also described as a place of torment forever and ever. Going on to the verses from chapter 21. And the one who is seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." Also he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life. Those who conquer will inherit these things, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the polluted, the murderers, the fornicators, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all liars, their place will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death." So it seems abundantly clear to me that the eschatology and the imagery of Gehenna in the New Testament very clearly comes from the book of Enoch. And it seems pretty damning to me, pardon the pun, that Enoch ended up not being included in the New Testament canon. Now, the book of Enoch also comes into play when discussing the apocalypse of Peter, but that's going to require another video.